we want to bring in our columnist, Bloomberg columnist David Reilly. He's been writing about executive compensation. Joining us now also is Jeanne Branthover, the managing director at Boyden Global Executive Search. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
All right, so let me just put out a couple talking points here. The start being this 500,000 number. No cash salaries over 500,000, David. So why do you think that's a magic number?
It's something I think the administration has just hit on, that it's not $1 million, it's not so high, it's not 250, so it's not too low. It sounds good to the public. It has a nice ring to it. At the same point, it's not a huge amount that people will be saying, oh, you're not making anything. But it sends a message, I guess, to people. The only problem is, when you look at this, you're saying, okay, how many people are really affected? 450 people? That's actually not that many people in the grand scheme of things. And then we're only talking about TARP institutions here, the ones who still have TARP. So people who don't like these caps can go to other firms. At the same point, I think the overall idea of limiting the amount of cash compensation and having more stock-based compensation that vests over a longer period of time is a good one. It's better to try and get people toward longer-term incentives.
So, Jeanne, what do you think the message is in the $500,000 salary cap?
I think the message is a lot bigger than the $500,000 cap. I think the message is to non-TARP companies, look at what we're doing, look at how we're changing what you get in cash and what you get long-term. This should be best practices. Take it seriously. He's already saying Goldman did a great job, announcing what they announced. So I think it's much bigger than just 500,000, and this is what it's about.
So this puts more pressure on the non-TARP companies. Are they actually going to react? Are they going to make changes to their salary plans?
Well, it puts pressure and it doesn't. What you mentioned, Goldman, yes, they came out with this announcement, oh, look, we're going to limit the cash compensation. But in a lot of ways, this is beneficial both to the people at Goldman who are getting the compensation, because that stock may be worth a lot more than the cash they would have gotten immediately, because it's going to be over a 5-year period. Secondly, for Goldman, it's great because they get to defer a portion of that compensation expense over the 5-year period. So that headline $16.7 billion figure we hear about that they've set aside for compensation, that will be reduced. So they can say, oh, look, we're paying out less, when in reality they're not, and the executives might actually be getting more in the long term.
Right, but they also may not be getting more in the long term. It really depends on what happens in the future. Although if you gamble on Goldman, you're gambling a good way.
Right.
I think I
So do you think this
could
have long-term, could this curb expansion or growth in the financial industry? Is it going to, we talk about the talent drain all the time.
Right. Well, I mean, let's put it this way. I think the biggest problem is that the TARP companies are not able to hold on to their talent. That's the biggest issue. And so what you really have to say is Feinberg doing some of the exceptions because the TARP companies were having a really tough time holding on to some of these top guys, and they need to.
So, Jeanne, let me ask you, are you seeing evidence of this in your talent placement firm?
Definitely.
So we were actually talking when Feinberg, for the first time, came out slashing the comp for the top-tier executives, and now they're moving down the ladder. So what's it been like for you and your business the last couple of weeks?
It's been active. It's been really active. People in the TARP companies have been concerned, and rightfully so, because all of the non-TARP companies are paying, and they're really paying, and they're paying good bonuses this year. And so when you're sitting in a TARP company and you know you're restricted and you know you're really good, and even though you're loyal, you'd like to stay. If someone that's equal to you at another firm is making 3 times you are, you're going to listen to a recruiter when they call, and that's just the reality of it.
And that's why when you look at what's happening in the UK and France right now, there's problems with what the UK is doing, but at the same point, they're applying it across the board to everyone in the financial sector, or at least in banks. So you don't have that same, well, my company's being hit, let's just jump over here across the street to another firm. You also don't get under that scenario. What we saw is, why did Bank of America really look to so quickly pay back its TARP funds?
Come on, why?
To get out from
everybody has to get out.
These, so
all right, guys, I got to jump in.